To discuss this, I'm joined by Einar Tangen from Beijing. He's a senior fellow at the Taihe Institute, a think tank based in the Chinese capital. He's also the founder of Asia Narratives. Einar, it's always good to have you on this news hour. The significance of the meeting between Gates and Xi, what should we be reading into it, especially the timing? It's coming before the visit of Blinken.
Well, I don't know that it was necessarily timed that way, but although he's not in business currently, Bill Gates is still very representative of the business community, and you've seen a drove of business leaders, from Apple, Starbucks, etc., coming to China. A gap opening up between the politics in Washington and the needs of business, which has substantial interest in China. Everything from Coca-Cola to Palmolive, you name it, they're here.
Einar, does someone like Bill Gates, who is still very influential across the world, does he have that type of influence to make any changes, improvements, if I could say, to that Chinese-US relationship, which is currently very rocky and facing several issues?
Well, I think he does because it gives cover to the administration to say, listen, we have to get a little bit more pragmatic. You've already seen Janet Yellen saying very clearly, we're hurting the American people with these tariffs. They're not hurting China. They're just hurting ourselves. And they have to be very realistic. She's, also poo-pooed the idea that there can be a complete separation of the economies, this decoupling idea. So I think given the economic realities that the world is facing, as well as China and the US, it's time to be a little bit more pragmatic, get away from the high-ended rhetoric. But it's going to be difficult with the election coming up and both sides of the aisle lining up to try to be tougher on China than the other.
Yeah, being tougher on China, Xi said that he sees Bill Gates as his first American friend to come to the country in several years. You mentioned that people like Tesla's Elon Musk, Apple's Tim Cook have all been to China. None of them, though, actually met with the president.
Well, it's not customary. This is a nation of 1.4 billion people. Generally, there would not be a meeting between these people. Elon Musk met with three ministers. I think that was quite an accommodation, but I don't think there's any question that he'd be meeting with Xi Jinping. It's a little bit different for Gates because he has this, he has the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, I should say. He co-directs it. And they are very interested in China. They donated $50 million towards making sure that medicines are readily available in China. And that's a very goodwill situation. He didn't come to China saying, hey, listen, can you help me pay for another car factory? He came saying, look, I'm interested in China's welfare and I'm doing something about it. So very, very different roles and approaches there. But I want to mention one thing. I mean, when Xi Jinping talks about the future of relations with the people, there's this feeling in Beijing that the elites in many parts of the world have kind of made up their mind. They're not listening. So I think China is trying to reach out to people and explain, everybody in China is the same as everybody else. During COVID, there was a lot of separation, and you saw marked deterioration in the attitudes towards China. It used to be positive 54% in the US, and it's now dipped below 25. So you've seen a lot of backtracking. I think China's very interested in having people diplomacy to improve that.
Einar Tangen, thank you so much for your analysis, as always, live from Beijing.